So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Rich Clark and for Throwback Thursday we're going to talk about my favourite films again, and I'm going to talk about another Jim Carrey film which again was out of typecast, and this is called The Truman Show and it's from 1998, and it was directed by Peter Weir and it's produced by Scott Rudin and it's written by Andrew Niccol, and the film stars Jim Carrey as Truman Burbank, a man who has grown up living an ordinary life unbeknownst to him. It takes place on a large set populated by actors for a reality TV show about him. Now, the idea of this is this actual person, the actual Jim Carrey's character, Truman Burbank, is selected from birth and officially adopted by a television station following an unwanted pregnancy. And Truman Burbank is an unsuspected star of The Truman Show, a reality TV based in 24/7, approximately 5,000 hidden cameras and broadcast wide. So this idea of this film is that all during it is we see the idea of where he finds out that, and he's got this whole life, and it's basically showing his everyday life, what has happened. It is basically it's instead of voyeurism, which is about sex, it's actually about voyeurism of what we as human beings, and this really in 1998 was the precursor to what happened in Big Brother, reality TV shows, such as in England we've got The Only Way is Essex and Made in Chelsea, and in America we had The Real World on MTV, and this film was sort of showing how this could be the future for somebody, and how reality TV people would watch this program all days, all times of the night, and everything is fake. And the only reason Jim Carrey finds this out as the person is that one day he's walking and something happens, a studio light falls onto the floor.
Good morning!
Morning! Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah. Morning, Truman.
Morning, Spencer. Hey, Pluto. Oh, no.
Oh,
Get down.
he won't hurt you.
Get down. Yeah, I know. It's just me.
Come on, Pluto.
This is the beginning of where he starts noticing things going wrong, and how he notices that everything is scripted and everything is unreal to him, and he starts noticing all these issues. And this is the thing, it's like this also goes into the idea of, are we living in a simulation or are we living in virtual reality or so forth. Now some philosophers claim we are, some claim we're not. There's also this other side of it as well, is where we have to look at when we're looking at where we live in a reality or not. This is also about, which is very important as hypnotherapists, is how we look if people are living false memories or in denial. Now again, the idea of denial is that we don't believe everything we're seeing. So this, what we could see as a form of psychosis, but in the reality of what we see now, because we talk about the idea of fake AI images. That's been happening recently. You know, people say, oh, this image is faked, or we don't know what's reality. But this has been going on for years. We are so socially programmed with the media, with the way we're taught in schools, how we should respond to the world, how we cannot criticise it, though we live in a democracy, which I always think is a very interesting juxtaposition. But when we look at these ideas, The Truman Show really illustrates this, and it illustrates it with the idea of choice. So the idea of choice is something I very much as a hypnotherapist is that you make that choice to do what you do. Every decision you make is a choice. Now it can be overwhelming with anxiety if you think about that, but the idea of choice is, if you choose to be triggered by something in the past, that is your choice. If you want to remove that, going to a hypnotherapy session and reframing that, how you get triggered, will then change the present and then lead you to a better future, because then you're not then in that self-sabotage or addiction or blockage or a fear or a phobia. Now with Truman, he doesn't have any of these things of, fears, because he feels his life is idyllic, and that's all he knows, because he doesn't know anything else. He doesn't know his background, he doesn't know where he's from, who he is, whatever it is. And there is someone who's actually an audience member, sees that all the things he goes through and really wants to help him settle eventually to the real world, because he feels he's been exploited since he's being born. And I think this actually is a very important thing, is that we have to understand with when we're looking at due diligence and we're looking at like discernment, is how manipulated are we? What we see on the TV, on the news, is because of the way special effects are done now in TV, and some are very good. How do we know what we see is the truth? And the Truman Show pushes that ideal, because the idea is how much of the reality is actually reality, or is it all scripted? Now, a perfect example is this scene here, which I'm going to just show you now, about how his wife, who he's with, then starts advertising a product, like talking to no one on the screen.
Let me get you some help, Truman. You're not well.
Why do you want to have a baby with me? You can't stand me.
That's not true. Why don't you let me fix you some of this new Mococo drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners.
What the hell are you talking about? Who are you talking to?
I've tasted other cocos. This is the best.
What the hell does this have to do with anything? Tell me what's happening!
Well, you're having a nervous breakdown. That's what's happening.
And as you see with Jim Carrey here, he's showing that it's not reality at all. It is very much, this is not how real people are. This is not how, and he would rather, and you can see he wants to leave the set. He's starting to realise that his whole life's been a lie. And once you get like that, and actually I think it's very interesting, because if you look at Jim Carrey as a person, he has become that himself. Like his way of looking at the world and what he thought success was, or what it was meant to be. Nowadays, like 20 odd years later after the film, 25 years later after the film, he kind of talks about this a lot. So to me, Jim Carrey's really interesting, because he can play that person who can be naive and and he does it very good in films, but then he also got as the other side of where he actually starts to have discernment. And actually probably a later thing, which I'm going to recommend as a series, is called Kidding, where he's really good. And it's his dad is a TV producer, and he's actually a children's TV presenter. And now that he has to try and cope with one of his twins' death, and the kind of juxtaposition of how he feels. And I think Carrey does this very well, because he's a comedian, but also in reality, I suspect he has people would think he had a form of bipolar. I don't think he does. I think he's just very highly intelligent, and I think he struggles with the world, because when you're intelligent, you do see things in a different way. So with the Truman Show, I think what you would like, if you haven't seen it, and I think it's more probably poignant now as a film than it was in 1998. And I loved it, because I was doing starting my A-levels at the time, and knowing what we were looking at about social constructs and conditioning and different ideas of how people see the world, and fundamentalism, Durkheimism, Marxism, and so forth, there's a lot of actual traits in here. And this last scene, which I'm just going to play to you now, basically illustrates the idea that actual Truman Burbank, in the end, actually would rather live in the real world and experience reality instead of being mother-cuddled.
I know you better than you know yourself.
You never had a camera in my head.
You're afraid. That's why you can't leave. It's okay, Truman. I understand. I have been watching you your whole life. I was watching when you were born. I was watching when you took your first step. I watched you on your first day of school. The episode when you lost your first tooth. You can't leave, Truman.
Please, God.
You belong here
You can do it.
with me. Talk to me. Say something.
Say something, goddammit. You're on television. You're live to the whole world.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.
And this is also something as well of conditioning, is that sometimes when we work with clients, too many people, I can't handle the real world, and that's because they've been sheltered from it too much. And that can be from cults, that can be very much from religious backgrounds and so forth. So the Truman Show also pushes that a lot, and it can be a breakthrough film for some people if they watch it, because they think, oh wow, how much of my life has been controlled. So, and the idea is that we should have the freedom of will. Free will is what makes us human beings, that we should have the free will of choice. And sometimes our subconscious helps and also hinders us to make choices which really we shouldn't make. But example, that's why sometimes you think, why did I make that choice? But it's the subconscious programming what does that. So the Truman Show really pushes on this. And anyway, please watch the film, and if you are interested in anything I do about how you would like to break cycles of triggering or breakthroughs and get a breakthrough from your self-sabotage or addictions or different things you have, and you'd like to kind of break down that and sort of not have such a difficulty with living in the real world, then please let me know, and please book a time on my website and we can have a consultation and work it out from there. Thank you very much.